Chapter 5. Dropping the Code. The email confirmation arrived on a Tuesday morning. Subject: Leave of absence approved, Frederick Douglass University. Effective: end of fall term. Winston stared at the screen longer than necessary. The message was polite, administrative, efficient. We wish you and your family peace during this difficult time. Please contact academic advising should you decide to re-enroll in a future semester. Re-enroll, future semester. The words felt distant. The idea felt like it belonged to someone else. He closed the laptop slowly. The kitchen smelled faintly of last night's curry, but instead of reaching for spices or chopping vegetables, he stood there uncertain. For weeks, cooking had filled his days. It had given him structure, but this was final. Frederick Douglass University was no longer temporary distance. It was something he had stepped away from. He expected guilt to rush in. It didn't. What unsettled him more was the absence of longing. He didn't miss the lab. He didn't miss debugging lines of code until 2 a.m. He didn't miss the sterile brightness of the STEM building. He missed Malcolm's loud debates. He missed Elijah's dry humor. He missed TJ's business schemes. He missed Amara's voice cutting through crowded rooms. But he did not miss computer science. That realization landed heavy. Because if he wasn't going back, then who was he becoming? Malcolm was the first to call when Winston texted the news. "You made it official?" Malcolm asked, voice steady but tight. "Yeah." There was a pause. "You coming back next semester?" "I don't know." Another pause, longer this time. "You don't know. Or you know." Winston leaned back against the counter. "I don't think I miss it." "Miss what?" "Computer science." Silence. Malcolm exhaled slowly. "That's grief talking." "Maybe," Winston said. "But even before I don't know, it was just something I was good at." "You were more than good at it," Malcolm said sharply. "You were top 5 in the class." "Yeah. That's not something you just walk away from." Winston stared at the window. Gray clouds hung low over the neighborhood. "I don't feel anything when I think about going back," he said quietly. "No pull." Malcolm's voice softened. "What do you feel?" Winston hesitated. "Alive," he said finally, "when I cook." There it was, spoken aloud. The line had been drawn. Malcolm didn't respond immediately. "You serious?" he asked. "I think so." Malcolm sighed. "I always thought you'd build something massive, like change systems." "Maybe I still will." "By cooking?" The question wasn't mocking, it was confused. "I don't know," Winston admitted, "but when I'm in the kitchen, it feels real." Malcolm was quiet again. "You're still my brother," he said eventually, "even if you trade code for cookbooks." Winston swallowed. "Same." After they hung up, Winston stood in the kitchen longer than necessary. He hadn't realized how much he'd needed Malcolm's approval until that moment. TJ reacted differently. "Bro," he said over FaceTime, pacing what looked like a study lounge. "This is an opportunity." "An opportunity?" "Yeah, reinvention. You're telling me you might pivot industries mid-college? That's branding gold." Winston blinked. "I'm not a startup." "Everybody's a startup." TJ replied automatically. "Listen, if you love cooking, monetize it. Build around it. Caribbean fusion pop-up. Tech-enabled food service. Something scalable." Winston almost laughed. "I just learned how not to burn rice." "That's step 1, TJ said seriously. Mastery, then market." There was comfort in TJ's consistency. He saw the world in expansion and leverage. You think I'm crazy? Winston asked. For leaving CS? Maybe a little, TJ admitted. But crazy is just conviction without proof yet. Winston shook his head. You're impossible. And you're evolving, TJ countered. Just don't disappear on us. I won't. Good. Because when I launch my investment firm, I'm going to need someone who knows how to cater the opening. That time, Winston did laugh. Elijah drove down in person. He showed up unannounced on a Saturday afternoon, knocking on the front door with a small duffel bag slung over his shoulder. You look terrible, Elijah said flatly, when Winston opened the door. Good to see you too. Elijah stepped inside, glanced around, then pulled Winston into a brief, firm hug. They didn't talk immediately. They sat at the kitchen table instead. Elijah watched as Winston chopped vegetables for soup. You're faster, Elijah observed. I've been practicing. I can tell. Silence settled comfortably between them. You going back? Elijah asked eventually. Winston kept chopping. I withdrew. Elijah nodded once. Okay. That's it? Winston asked. What do you want me to say? I don't know. Something. Elijah leaned back in his chair. You've always been good at what you commit to, he said. If you commit to this, you'll be good at it too. You don't think I'm wasting potential? Elijah considered that carefully. Potential for what? He asked. Prestige? Salary? Or fulfillment? Winston didn't answer. Elijah continued. You can heal people with food too, just different anatomy. It was such an Elijah thing to say that Winston smiled despite himself. You going to tell people I dropped out? Winston asked. You didn't drop out, Elijah corrected calmly. You pivoted. They ate the soup together in silence. It was simple. Chicken, vegetables, time. But Elijah finished the bowl and nodded. This tastes like intention, he said. The word stayed with Winston long after Elijah left. Amara came last. She didn't call first. She showed up on a Sunday evening, standing on the porch in a long coat, hands tucked into her sleeves against the cold. When Winston opened the door, her eyes searched his face carefully. Hey, she said softly. Hey. They walked to the small park near his house instead of staying inside. Leaves crunched underfoot. The air carried that late fall bite that hinted at winter. I heard, she said finally. From Malcolm? She nodded. You're not coming back. Winston stared at the bare trees. I don't think so. She studied him. Is this because of Andre? Everything is because of Andre, he replied quietly. But not like that. Then how? He struggled to explain it. When he died, everything that felt certain just collapsed, he said. I kept asking myself why I was doing what I was doing, and I couldn't answer. And now you can? When I cook, I don't feel numb, he said. I feel present. Amara's breath fogged in the cold air. You never talked about cooking like this before. I never listened to it before. They walked a few more steps in silence. So what does this mean? She asked. For us? He clarified. She nodded. Winston exhaled slowly. I don't know, he admitted. I'm changing. I can feel it. That scares me, she said honestly. It scares me too. She stopped walking. I fell in love with the guy who had a 5-year plan, she said quietly. The one who knew exactly where he was going. Winston's chest tightened. I don't know that guy anymore. Her eyes glistened, but she didn't cry. Are you sure you're not running? She asked. He met her gaze. I'm running towards something. They stood there for a long moment, wind cutting between them. I don't want to lose you, she whispered. You won't, he said automatically. But even as he said it, he felt the distance forming. Not out of anger, not out of betrayal, but out of divergence. They were walking different roads now, and neither of them knew where they ended. That night, Winston returned to the kitchen. He didn't turn on music. He didn't speak. He simply began preparing dough for fried dumplings, flour, salt, baking powder, water. He mixed slowly, kneading until the dough softened beneath his palms. In computer science, progress was measured in output. Did the code compile? Did the system respond? In cooking, progress was tactile. Texture told you when you were ready. He shaped the dumplings carefully, lowering them into hot oil one by one. They puffed golden almost immediately. He watched them turn, watched heat transform something plain into something nourishing. When he tasted one, it was crisp outside, soft inside. He leaned back against the counter. He waited for regret. It didn't come. He waited for panic. It didn't come. Instead, there was clarity. He did not miss the lab. He did not miss the code. He missed his friends. He missed the campus energy. But the path itself, he felt no pull toward it. Andre had once told him, "You don't have to follow the plan if the plan doesn't fit anymore." At the time, Winston had thought he meant career advancement. Now he understood it differently. Dropping the code wasn't failure. It was acknowledgement. The life he had imagined before the knock at the door no longer fit. And for the first time since everything shattered, that realization did not terrify him. It steadied him. He washed his hands slowly, dried them, and opened his notebook. At the top of a blank page, he wrote, "What if this is the beginning?" The question did not demand immediate answers. It simply existed. And in that quiet kitchen, flour still dusting the counter, Winston allowed himself to consider a future that did not involve algorithms, but might still require discipline, might still require precision, might still require heat. He closed the notebook gently. Outside, the night settled over the neighborhood. Inside, the stove clicked softly as it cooled. And Winston, no longer tethered to code, stood at the edge of something entirely new.